Hey everyone, how you doing? Jonathan Lipp here from the Big Apple Film Festival. Hi everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here for our second day of conferences. So the Big Apple Film Festival is taking place this weekend. We have the film screening virtually all weekend up until Sunday night at midnight. We also have our drive-in screenings as well, taking place at Demarest Farms Drive-In Theater at Hillsdale, New Jersey. And in addition to that, we have our conferences, which began last night. Today, of course, and then tomorrow as well, we have two additional conferences. So please join. And I'd like to welcome our guest today. We're talking about collaborations between screenwriters and actors. So we have with us screenwriter Jose Rivera. Hi, Jose. How you doing?
Good. Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
And we have Sara Koviak. Hi, Sara.
Hi.
So Jose and Sara's film, The Fall of a Sparrow, is screening at the Big Apple Film Festival. We have it screened virtually all weekend. And so we're talking today about collaboration. So let's first begin by asking our guests to tell us a little bit about themselves. Jose is an Academy Award nominated screenwriter, the Motorcycle Diaries. He's also written many other screenplays. Sara has had extensive experience in the theater as well, and she's also an actor on a show right now. So I'll let them talk a little bit about their careers and about themselves first. So Jose, if you could tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, I was born in Puerto Rico, and my parents moved to New York when I was about 4 years old. Yeah, I've always loved the theater. Theater was the first love, and then discovered film a little bit later in life, and then yeah, I just I worked on the Motorcycle Diaries, as you know, and that kind of opened the door to a lot of other film projects that followed. Most of them did not get made, but I wrote On the Road, which was also directed by Walter Salles, who directed Motorcycle. A film called Trade, which was about sex slavery, and also been doing a lot of television lately. So lately I've been working on the Netflix adaptation of 100 Years of Solitude. And that's sort of my current gig right now.
Okay, thank you. And Sara, what about your experience?
Yeah, actually, I grew up as a dancer. I danced my whole life, and I moved out here to really have my own dance company, and I started working for other people, and I was a classically trained dancer, ended up dancing at the Met and in musicals and touring the country, and then I transitioned into acting. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. And I teach dance, so I'm teaching at many different conservatories here and spreading my knowledge and love for all things theater and film. Yeah.
Thank you. So before we jump into the questions, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A box here, and we'll get to as many as we can. Let's start by asking you about The Fall of a Sparrow. If you want to tell us a little bit about the film and sort of what inspired it. Either one of you want to take that?
Yeah, back in the 80s, I had an experience very close to Lily's experience in Fall of a Sparrow, meaning that I went to look at an apartment to buy, and back then it was in Park Slope on 6th Avenue, which then was, very different than it is now. And, kind of innocently and naively went to see this apartment, didn't realize that the family who lived there was going to be there when I toured their apartment to buy it. And it was an African-American family. And I just didn't like the situation. I felt really uncomfortable, and I ended up segregating myself in the kitchen and ended up in a conversation with, I imagine she was 10 or 11-year-old girl who lived there who was doing her homework. And we had this conversation about the house and all kinds of stuff. And anyway, so cut to many years later, I wrote a play about that encounter. And then after meeting Sara, I thought, oh, this might make a really interesting film. Instead of putting a man in the lead, I put Sara in the lead to make it that much more complicated, and made her character pregnant in the film. So that's sort of the origins of the story.
Okay, great. And so Sara, how did you sort of connect with Jose on this story? How did you get the script, and then how did it sort of come together from there?
Yeah, I'd seen the play version of it, and it was really great and really moving, and it's just so interesting how you talk to random people and you meet random people, and it stays with you for such a long time. So I thought that was fascinating that one encounter with that little girl stayed with him for so long and made such an impact. So yeah, I'd seen the play version, and then it was his idea to turn it into a movie. And my co-star Merritt Marsh is a fantastic actress as well, so we clicked instantly. And I'd seen her work before, so it all just came together really well and really comfortably. And the three of us worked fantastically together, taking notes and just had good chemistry as well. Yeah.
So, Sarah, as an actress, and you're on a show right now. It's with Nicole Kidman. What's the title of the?
Yeah, The Undoing. Yeah, I filmed it. Yep.
So, as an actress, working with Jose, how did you sort of interpret the script? Like, did you have any like changes you wanted to make? Is there anything you were like, well, Jose, I really love this, but perhaps maybe my character should do this instead? Did you interpret any parts of it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, by the time we filmed this, we'd been working together a few years, so I felt comfortable saying, well, I don't know if my character would quite, I don't know if she would do this, and I think she would more lean towards this, and this is how she might talk to the little girl. So there were little tiny moments like that, but also he rewrote a big monologue in the center of the film to fit me and my character and how I might speak to the little girl. It was the whole growing up Italian. So that was meant for me. Yeah, so there was little changes here and there, and then the big change in the middle, just to suit what I can bring to it and how I speak, and even how I kind of put my thoughts together to make it mold really well.
Right. And Jose, how do you, as the writer, how does that work for you? Are you okay making changes when an actor requests it, or if they see something maybe a bit different?
Yeah. I mean, I tend to trust actors. I think their instincts tend to be pretty strong, and I am attracted to working with actors with strong instincts. So obviously there has to be a huge trust level between director and actor, and a kind of shorthand, because there isn't, on the set, as you know, there isn't time to do a lot of things. So luckily both Sarah and Merritt came from the theater, and we rehearsed the film like a play. I blocked the film like a play, and they were word perfect in terms of the text when we shot. And in 2 16-hour days, intense days of shooting, I never once had to say cut because the actors had missed the line or even missed a mark. They were so precise. And yeah, I mean, I tend to, from the play to the film, the character obviously changed a great deal. And what I really wanted was a film that was not black and white, that was not an easy kind of highly political look at gentrification. I wanted it to be a complex confrontation between two three-dimensional characters. And so it was really important for me to really fill out Lily's character, Sarah's character, in terms of her struggle being an Italian American growing up in an Irish neighborhood, and the prejudice that she felt, and Sarah bringing that to the table was really important. But answering your question, I'm very sensitive and open to what actors feel. And sometimes it's not even a sense of logic or a rational argument. It's sort of what does the instinct tell you? And I tend to really trust actors with highly developed instincts.
All right. Now, since both of you have extensive experience in the theater, do you think it's a good idea prior to a filmmaker making a film to maybe start out with it as a play? Is that a good place to start? So first, let me just ask Sarah, as an actor, do you think it's a good idea to maybe do it as a play first?
It certainly doesn't hurt. The good thing about doing it as a play first is that you have that rehearsal aspect. So you have that muscle memory built in. You have the experience of playing it over and over and playing with the character and maybe making the little tweaks and exploring it. So if anything, it just deepens what you can do and the relationship you have to the role and to your characters and to the people around you. So it would heighten it and make it stronger, I believe. Now, we don't always have that luxury or that specific circumstance. So, you know, if you were to only do the film, obviously you know, rehearse it as much as you can. Oh, we'll talk about the new film, which was also a play. But yeah, so I would say the rehearsal aspect and just putting it in your body and making it comfortable.
Right, and Jose, same thing, as a writer, you know, you've written screenplays and plays. Would you recommend to a writer to start out doing it as a play first, try it on stage first, maybe even before investing money in the film version?
Possibly. I don't think it's right for every story. I mean, the good side is, like, you look at Marlon Brando, you know, in Streetcar, and you can see the hundreds and hundreds of hours he lived that role before he ever shot it. And so obviously in that case and in other cases, you know, having the play under your belt before you start filming is like invaluable. But not every story should be a play first. Some films are pure cinema and don't go through the same process that a play goes through. You know, when I've taught screenwriting, the first assignment I always give my writers, young students, is to write a silent film. Don't write a film, you know, that is dependent on the dialogue the way a play is. They're such different animals. So I think rehearsing a film is important, and I think it's a good thing to do. And I think the more time an actor inhabits a role, the further along they will be when you say action on the set. You know, but I wouldn't say as a matter of practical experience that it should be a play first. I don't think so.
Okay. And Sara, as an actor, if you have a concept in mind for a film, how would you go about finding a screenwriter to write it for you? Like, is it just based on people you know, like how you knew Jose, or would you seek out a writer to write a part for you?
Yeah, no, I just asked Jose, no. No, yeah, just, you know, everybody has their friends and their people they work with and their little crew. So over my years doing this, I've had many different crews and friends and groups that I've worked with. And so this is who I'm working with now, and it's working well. I understand his language and the words he uses, and it just fits really well. You know, to compare it to my dance career, it's like finding choreographer you really like. What fits on your body? So these words fit. So yeah, in fact, we're collaborating now on a new film, and we're both giving ideas and, you know, using my strengths and what I can bring to it, and of course everything he brings to it. So yeah.
And Jose, when you write a script, do you write it with certain actors in mind?
Sometimes. Going back to what Sara was saying, the thing that I discovered as we started working together, because you never know, you start working with someone and it could fall apart. But what I discovered with Sara is that she instinctively gets what my language is doing. She instinctively inhabits that language in a way a lot of other actors don't, or they guess and they miss. So that has been a big boon, and one of the reasons that we've continued to collaborate. And now I've gotten to the point where I am actively writing for her and her strengths. You know, we just did a quarantine play that's basically one character, but unlike The Fall of a Sparrow, I was able to sort of exploit Sara's comic abilities. She's very, very funny and physically funny. And, you know, so that was part of the learning experience that I had working with her. It's like, oh, now I know what you do really well. Now I know what your strengths are as an actor. And the new one that Sara was alluding to goes even further in terms of the physical comedy that she brings to it. And we'll be using her dance ability in that one, which we haven't done before. So yeah. I mean, throughout the years, I've been doing this a long time. There have been actors in and out of my life who I've written for, like John Ortiz, for instance, the actor, has been in 6 of my projects. Raul Castillo has been in 6 of my plays. These are people who, like, I know they deliver for me, and Sara is the same way. And that's really important, because it saves time. Like, on the set, we didn't waste a minute on things that we had covered in rehearsal.
All right. We have a question here. It's not directly related to this, but somebody has a question. Again, anybody else has any questions, feel free to type it in here. It's a business question. I guess it's for Jose. With a letter of intent from an older A-list actor who's not worked in a while, would you say it is still possible to fund an award-winning script with sale distribution? So it's not directly related to this, but I don't know. Jose, any thoughts on that?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is, with a letter of intent from an older A-list actor, so let's say his name's Josh, shall I say Josh has a script, he has a letter of intent from an older A-list actor who's not worked in a while. Would you say it's still possible to fund an award-winning script through pre-sale distribution?
I think so. I mean, I think it's tougher, but I mean, if the letter of intent is still current and still viable, then I don't see why not. I mean, the thing is, actors get attached to projects all the time, and sometimes that attachment is incredibly flimsy, But, if it's a real sort of hardcore commitment by an actor, then I don't see why not, And if the actor has, industry chops and can attract money, then great, then go for it. Okay.
By the way, I'm curious, Sara, do you write as well? Have you written any scripts for yourself?
I do, yes. Over quarantine, but I've done it all in the past. Yes, I create funny characters, mostly funny, quirky, silly, physical comedy type characters for myself. Yes, and I have more coming up.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Francisco. It's for Jose. He says, my father's name is Ernesto, so you can imagine how many times we've seen the Motorcycle Diaries. I have an award-winning sci-fi screenplay set between Puerto Rico and Mars. Would you be willing to read it? It would be an inspiring honor.
Would I be willing to read his screenplay?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Well, somebody once wrote an article, said something like, the title was something like, I will not read your fucking screenplay. I think that was the title of the article. Because it's, I tend to be shy of that simply because I've been in situations where someone sends me something and then they accuse me of stealing it or that kind of stuff. So I would say to this person, whoever they are, send it to my manager, and Rick, we've been together for 27 years. I trust him. And if Rick says it's okay, I will.
All right, good. Thank you. Great answer. All right, Mohammed asks, thank you for your time. He says, for Sara, what creative advice would you give to a theater actor adjusting to the screen? So we'll start with that part of it. What creative advice would you give to a theater actor adjusting to the screen? Sara?
Yeah, so obviously it's a different energy level. And the thing is, everyone's different. Like, you can watch 100 movies on TV and you're going to see big performances and you're going to see super subtle, very, very tiny performances. And it just depends on the actor. And I know most people say, well, you got to go smaller. But then you watch and there are very big performances on there. So I would say, stick to your personality and stick to what you do. And yes, you might need to condense the energy and rein it in so that it is a little smaller and more subtle, but stick to your instincts and allow yourself to express yourself fully, and don't feel confined, because then I think we'll pick up on that confined energy, but just be able to live in yourself and just bring it down. Yeah.
And now this is for Jose. When writing a story based on historical events, How do you balance capturing the truth while telling a good story? Do you think those are creative choices or ethical choices, or both?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, you know, when you make a movie, it ought to stand on its own. It ought to be a piece of fiction that has been created by particular artists for a particular moment in time. We are not historians. We are filmmakers. We are creative artists. We're not making documentaries. So in the process of the Motorcycle Diaries, I was guided by the two books that each of the men on that trip had written. You know, so you had Ernesto's book and you had the other book. And so I was guided in general by the architecture and the sort of like the truth underneath all the moments. But a lot of things I felt free to create. Obviously, you know, a word for word transcription of what really happened on the road does not exist and never will exist. So I felt free to create moments between the two guys, between the encounters that they had on the road, as long as the general truth was there. You know, the thing about Ernesto Guevara's journey is that particular time in his life when he was 24, making those trips around South America, you know, it was a coming of age story. It was a story of a young sheltered man, a middle-class guy from Buenos Aires who becomes more political and awakened in the course of the journey. So to me, as long as I was true to that part of the history, then I felt secure.
All right.
You know?
I'm sure we have emerging screenwriters on here. Just a question, how did you get the opportunity to adapt the Motorcycle Diaries for the screen?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I had, prior to the Motorcycle Diaries, and this is not an exaggeration, this is a mathematical truth, I spent 14 years writing screenplays that no one produced. I wrote one for Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, I wrote all kinds of screenplays. I wrote many for Disney. None of them got produced. So, you know, by the time I crossed paths with Walter Salles, the director, I was a pretty experienced screenwriter, though I'd never experienced the joy and fun of having a movie made. So in a way, it's like that old cliche, it's like an overnight success, but it took 20 years. You know, that's how it felt. And the funny thing was that, you know, when Walter doesn't live in the States, he lives in Brazil. So he came to the States to make this movie, didn't really know the ins and outs of the system and stuff. But he knew enough that if he wanted a screenwriter, he should go through the agencies. So every agent in town sent him their client's screenplay. So it was CAA, you know, William Morris, everybody. And he didn't want to read a single one of them. So he asked his assistant, Eileen, to read them for him, because it was a stack. And he said, was there anything good in that stack? And she goes, well, there was this one screenplay I liked. And it was a screenplay that I wrote called Lucky. And so based simply on her recommendation, he read the script, liked it, and we met for lunch. And by the time lunch finished, he had offered me the job. So it was, in some ways, the easiest job I ever got, because I didn't jump through a million hoops. I didn't pitch a single thing, but he liked the sensibility of the screenplay. And then when we met, we talked about our lives. And his father was important in his life. My father was important in my life. So we really clicked as just two human beings. And Walter, he's the kind of guy, he's old school. He's like, he always says, before he works with anybody, he needs to break bread with them. You know, and for Walter, everything is personal. So we clicked on a personal level. And I think he trusted me, and then he hired me.
Wow, very cool. It's a great story. Yeah, we have Lisa has a question. She says, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much for all these webinars. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. For the panelists, any advice for a novice screenwriter to connect with actors who would be willing to play the various roles in my screenplay? Should I begin looking at film schools for students willing to play the parts? Other advice to begin my journey? Thank you. So either, I guess, I don't know, Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that? And then we'll go to Jose.
Yeah, I would say film schools are definitely a good place to start. So you have many options there. And then after that, there's all kinds of things. I mean, you can put information out, your exact breakdown out on something like Actors Access or Breakdown Services. So then people will send you their information and resumes, and you can look at their profile. So Actors Access, maybe Backstage, you know, even like a playbill, but mostly Actors Access and definitely the film schools. Yeah, because they're all young, eager students who want to work and explore and who might even collaborate and help you. Yeah.
Great. Jose, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually wanted to throw this back to Sarah and see if we can answer the question a different way, which is like, as an actor, what attracts you to a screenplay? What are you looking for when you read it that makes you say, yes, I want to do this?
I love great language, witty language, very strong characters that have a strong point of view and a reason why they're doing what they're doing. So if they're going to be mean and angry at the world, there better be a reason for it, and a really good one. Yeah? So you have something to play off of, so you're not just a talking head or a stereotype or anything like that. So there has to be a lot of meaningful backstory. And even if you create it with the actor you hire or something, but yeah, that's what attracts me, is well-rounded characters, very good language, always find some kind of comedy and humor in whatever you're doing. And just, you know, a story that really interests me and that I would want to read over and over and rehearse over and over. Yeah.
All right, great, thank you. Let's see, we have a question here. Any advice for creative ways to attract a good fitting literary agent or manager? I guess, Jose, any advice for attracting a good agent?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think managers and agents want to know that you have the kind of talent that can go on for years, that you're not just a flashy thing with a flashy screenplay at this moment, that you have within you the capacity to evolve and change and come up with idea after idea after idea, year after year after year. I think a manager and an agent look for that kind of talent. And so I always tell young writers, like, really diversify. You know, write your rom-com, write your history story, write your horror film, you know, write your deeply personal indie story, and be able to present to a manager and an agent a wide variety of voices and styles and things like that, because, you know, they're going to want to pin you to the marketplace, and the marketplace demands many different things. So if you can do many different things, your ability to get work increases. You know, James Joyce once said, "The more you know, the more you can write." And I think that's very, very true about screenwriting as well. And I think managers, at least the ones that, you know, like Rick Berg, who's my manager, you know, he looked to me to be able to say, oh yeah, this writer is going to grow, and in 10 years, he'll be able to do this, in 20 years, he'll be able to do that. And I think that's the kind of person you want to look for.
Right. Sarah, I'm curious, you know, speaking about, like, you know, diversifying your talents, would you ever want to make a film about dance as a dancer yourself? Something where perhaps you would start it as a dancer. Have you ever thought about anything like that?
Yes, I do all the time. I would love to. I really want to use my dancing ability with my acting ability. Yes.
Cool.
Yes, I would love that.
So all the screenwriters out there, listen.
Yeah, no, it would be beautiful. And it's so rare to see. They happen, and it's wonderful when you do see them, but like a real dance movie that has real dancers and real actors that have both skills. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and it's rare. And so, yes, I'll be very happy to have the opportunity to be part of one.
Great.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'm curious, like, you know, you do so much in terms, you do your theater, you're on shows, independent films, short films. How do you, this is sort of a question more in terms of organization. How do you sort of balance everything? Because I know there's so many artists that want to do so much, and it's very difficult to balance. How do you balance all of this? You're a dancer, you're an actor, in film.
Yeah, it's I feel like I'm running a marathon every day. I do a lot. Taking time, you know what? It's a morning routine. I have a routine that I do every morning, and it's very intense, and it takes a few hours, but I do it every day. Breathing exercises, meditation, cold showers, qigong, all kinds of things. But honestly, that boosts my energy and my focus, and I have way more stamina and creativity. So, I've been doing this a long time, and this has evolved. So this is what I do now, and it really, really helps, especially long days on set. I feel much better, and I have the stamina, and I have the mental focus to go from, rehearsing a full-length play to suddenly doing this short film to suddenly doing this other play with 5 different characters, just to keep everything, very much where it should be up here.
Right.
Yeah. So creating some kind of routine for yourself, somewhere that you can go where everything is quiet and you can center yourself.
So much like budgeting a film, you're budgeting your time, really.
Exactly. Yeah, and you need to take that time for yourself.
Right. Jose, we have a number of screenwriters on here, and I think perhaps the belief amongst many writers is they're going to sell that screenplay, the movie's going to get made, and they're off and running. Now here you are, Academy Award nomination. You've written a hit film, and you've written numerous films. Is that the case, or what's the reality of this business as a screenwriter?
Yeah. The reality is complicated because if you have a career as long as mine, you're going to have such peaks and valleys. There'll be times when you're the hottest damn thing on 2 legs. And then there's times when nobody knows your name. And both things can happen one after the other and then reverse themselves, and it'll happen differently, another time. So, yeah, I think the advice I would give to people is sort of like, think in long terms. Think in like, oh yeah, don't think about, all right, this is just my screenplay. I'm going to write the screenplay. I'm going to get famous or whatever. You have to think about yourself as in part of a 30-year journey, a 40-year journey, and that, and because it's the only way to endure the real bad times. And bad times will happen to everybody. I mean, you could be Charlie Kaufman and get terrible reviews for your film. I mean, I've been killed in the New York Times more times than I can tell you. And you just think long term. You think, okay, I got kicked in the teeth now. I've got 4 other screenplays out there. My play just got canceled. I've got 2 more plays in the pipeline. It's a constant, like, you're a creative artist, so create, create pages, create characters, create voices, and learn that no matter what the business throws at you, that you are bigger than that. You've got more talent than the critics can understand. You've got more ability than the studios know. And that, what I tell writers oftentimes is that to be a successful writer in theater or whatever, you have to hold 2 contradictory thoughts in your head. One is, I am the shit. I am the best thing that happened since Cervantes, That's thought number 1. Thought number 2 is, I suck at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I will never figure it out. I'm an apprentice for life. And you have to hold both those things in your mind at the same time in order to sort of psychologically succeed in this business.
All right, yeah, good answer. Sarah, I'm curious.
Can I add I just want to add one thing to what Sara said earlier about actors. And one of the reasons that I love working with her and why our collaboration works and what I look for, it's like she shows up. She's prepared. She knows what she wants to do. And like for a screenwriter, director, looking to actors who you want to work for, those are the qualities that you want. You want honesty in an actor. You want courage in an actor. You want to be able to trust them with your life. because you are, creatively speaking. And like Sara brings those things with her. And then she talks about her preparation and stuff and the stamina that she has. I've never worked with someone who never complains. I never worked with somebody who is constantly generous to her fellow artists. You know, when we did Sparrow, you know, her rapport with Merritt and her generosity to make that 12-year-old girl feel comfortable on the set was lovely. You know, so, you know, for all the people out there, like, look, you know, who are in actor, director positions, like, what do I look for in an actor? These are the qualities you look for.
All right, great. Sara, as an actor, so as I mentioned before, you know, you've done work on television, and that you've also made films like, you know, The Fall of Sparrow. Which do you find more challenging when you're working on a television show or when you're shooting an independent film?
Oh boy, they both have their unique challenges, because the thing about a TV show is just such a huge scale. So there's hundreds of people involved and there's so many working parts. So to just do 5 seconds, it might take you 8 hours, right? And so it's very minute things that you're doing, but on a huge scale, and every working piece needs to work at the same rate. And so you might have to do it 50 times. Whereas in a short film, you have a smaller crew. Although Sparrow, we had about 20 people on set, which is big for a short film. So that had its own challenges, but we were limited by the size of the space we were in. We were limited by the number of people we had in that space and just the configuration of the space. So when we would go for takes, our takes would be 5 minutes long, and we only got 2 chances, and that was it. We'd have to move on. So that was a challenge. So it was lucky that Merritt and I, you know, are trained theater actors, and we'd rehearsed so much, and we were word perfect because we only had time for 2 takes. So it just depends. Yeah. On an indie film, there's going to be more pressure on you personally because you might be carrying the film. And then on a TV set, you just have to have the stamina to keep doing it and waiting for all those pieces to come together and finally film another 5 seconds. Yeah.
All right. And we have a question here about iPhone filmmaking. Just curious, Jose and Sara, what are your thoughts on making a film on an iPhone?
Yeah, we had actually thought of doing that with the quarantine film. I was going to shoot it on my phone. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not a DP, and I don't know if it's going to look all that hot. So I ended up getting, you know, a wonderful young DP with a wonderful camera. But I think it's great. I mean, you know, Tangerine is one of my favorite films. I mean, it's so, there's a certain freedom in having that thing that be so small that you could take it anywhere and put it in any place you want. And I think that's a great, liberating piece of technology for making film. So I totally would embrace it. Absolutely.
Cool. Sara, how about yourself? Would you feel comfortable making a film on an iPhone?
Yeah, that's what I did all summer. I did. I made lots of quirky little, you know, funny films when I was home with my parents during quarantine, and they were, you know, kind enough to help me and film me. But yeah, I used my phone. Yeah. You know what? Use whatever you have. Stay creative. Use what you have. And if you have the budget to get more, get more. If you don't, then use what you have. Like Tangerine, they did it. Right. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
All right. So let me just ask you, for The Fall of a Sparrow, are there any discussions about, you know, turning it into, I don't know, a longer project, perhaps? I don't know, a feature kind of version. Any thoughts on that?
There's always that in the back of your mind, like, what can I do with this going down the road? I haven't really given it the level of thought that would give me confidence that it could work. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think that relationship between the 2 women is fascinating and fraught and complicated, and I think could sustain a longer story. I don't know what that story is at the moment, but you know, the thing about the potential is definitely there.
Sara, would you want to see it as a feature-length film?
It could be, yeah. I mean, I would love to work with Jose again and Merritt again. That would be wonderful, because it was such a positive experience, and everyone was so professional and so on top of things. So I would love to recreate that for sure. Yeah, and of course, we're both a little older now. I mean, not by much, but, well, 12, so now she's probably 13, 14. So that's even different, you know, seeing how time has passed and even everything we've lived through this year and seeing how that's changed us.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely possibilities.
Right. Sara, you mentioned that you and Jose were collaborating on a new project. Are you able to tell us anything about that at this point?
Yeah, so we have a quarantine movie, which, like you said, we hired the DP, who was fantastic, and now we're already working on part 2. So we hope to film that maybe in December, we'll see. But yeah, all of a sudden, all these really wonderful ideas are coming up, and it's exciting. And knowing that it's wonderful to make your own work and what you want to do and what you feel passionate about and having control over that. So it's a nice thing.
Yeah. Jose, what are your thoughts about the New York theater scene? Is he going to come back?
It's anyone's guess. I mean, I think it will, of course it will. I mean, it's too big, there's too much money involved. New York is known for its theater. It is what attracts tourists from all over the world. I think it will. I don't know when it'll be financially viable. You know, if you think of Broadway, you can't have a theater with a person in every other seat. Just no producer would put up with that financially. So I don't know the answer. I know, like, my friends in, like, you know, off Broadway and off Broadway theater world are constantly trying to find ways to continue working. You know, and God, I don't know how many, you know, Zoom readings I've seen and Zoom productions. Ultimately, though, we all want to be in the room together.
Yeah.
We want to be in a room with an audience. And when that will take place, I have no idea. It will happen. There's too much talent, there's too much desire, and there's frankly too much money at stake for it to not happen, you know? So it will happen, but no one knows when.
Right. All right. Well, so The Fall of a Sparrow is, you know, as I mentioned, it's available virtually this weekend on BigAppleFilmFestival.com, part of the virtual festival. But afterwards, is there any other festivals coming up for you? Any other place that the film can be seen as the weeks and months progress?
Yes. You want to take that, Sara? Since you,
okay. Yeah, at the end of the month, November 27th to 30th, I believe, is the official Latino Film Festival. We will be there. And then the first week of December, we'll be at the Chain Film Festival, which is another New York City film festival. And then next year, we'll be at the Golden Door International Film Festival from New Jersey. And we're waiting to hear back from others.
Are these all virtual at this point?
I believe so, although Golden Door hasn't announced official dates yet, so there's hope there. But yes, the two coming up, November, December, are virtual.
Virtual. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. So yeah, Fall of Sparrow. Yeah, definitely keep your eye out for it. Again, this weekend, and as Sara mentioned, there are additional screenings coming up as well. So I want to thank you both for being here. Jose Rivera and Sara Koviak, writer, actress, working together, collaborating, and hopefully all of you found this informative. And I think I just have one. Oh, okay. It's in the chat box. Okay. Just a thank you. Okay. So yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now.
Okay.